In the aftermath of the First World War, the people of Britain needed a focus for their grief and sense of loss. Every community in the land sent people off to fight and work, and all suffered horrendous losses. There wasn't a corner of our country that was not affected by this war to end all wars. The British Empire's 1.1 million dead created a powerful need for monuments. To this end, war memorials were erected across the UK in the greatest wave of remembrance this nation has ever seen. In the United Kingdom, the scale of the loss of those serving with the military during the Great War resulted in the fact that there are very few towns or villages which do not have some sort of public memorial to commemorate their men and women who died in the First World War. This one, for example, is in the village of Auldearn, and there are 52 names listed. During the years following the 1914-18 war, monuments were put up with municipal funding or by private and public subscription. In many cases, a roll of honour was inscribed with the names of the fallen, both civilians and military personnel. These could also be found in churches, public buildings, factories, railway stations, collieries, schools and so on. A good example is on the back wall of the Royal Mail Parcel Collection Office in Millbank Street in Nairn. There's also a good one up in the railway station. Both are worth a visit if you're passing. It is not known how many First World War memorials there are, so widespread was the nation's grief. But there are certainly tens of thousands in Britain. One estimate puts the number at between 60 and 90,000. No area of our heritage is more poignant than war memorials. They are found everywhere and link the tragic impact of world wars with local communities across the land. This particular memorial is in Cawdor and it lists 48 names. That's 48 people from this small, tiny parish in Nairnshire. One such war memorial is here, in the parish of Ardclach, Nairnshire. It sits just to the east of the A939 Nairn to Granton Road, at the top of the brae coming up from the Logie Findhorn Bridge. When passing in the car, and especially when the leaves are on the trees, it can be difficult to spot, but keep a look out for the sign. It's at the roadside. There is a grassy track leading up to it, and as you approach, the plinth and column, surrounded by a low fence, comes into view. If we look on the south side of the memorial, we see a list of 15 names, and these are all from the First World War. However, if we come gently round to the north side of the memorial, we see another list of 6 names, and these are the casualties from the Second World War. The memorial itself was proposed at a meeting of the ratepayers of the parish of Ardclach on Wednesday the 3rd of September 1919. It was held to consider what steps should be taken as to the erection of a memorial for those who had fallen in the war. The cost was agreed to be between £300 and £400, and £150 of which was raised in the parish alone. The firm of D&A Davidson, Sculptors, Academy Street, Inverness, was engaged to design and construct the memorial. Andrew Davidson was a sculptor of considerable ability, and he was in high demand. He had spent a great deal of time in Rome, where he had refined his art. The statue of the Three Graces, which now stands near Nessbank Church, and the world-famous statue of Flora MacDonald outside Inverness Castle are two examples of his work. The memorial was unveiled on 26th of January 1921, with a more formal unveiling taking place in December 1921, which was attended by Mrs. Brodie of Lethen. Her son, Ewan James Brodie, is one of the names on the memorial. Most of the people on the memorial did not come home. A lot of them are remembered on the Menin Gate and other similar memorials. The Menin Gate Memorial to the Missing is a war memorial in Belgium, dedicated to the British and Commonwealth soldiers who were killed in the Ypres Bulge of World War I, and whose graves are unknown. Its large hall of memory contains names on stone panels of 54,395 Commonwealth soldiers who died in the area, but whose bodies have never been identified or found. Having looked through all the names on the memorial, I did, however, find one of the named casualties who was actually buried in his native Nairnshire. His name was William B. Mitchell, and he came from Littlemill. And if you look on the memorial, here's his name here: Royal Naval Reserve. So we're now going to go down to Littlemill and just see what we can find out. And here we are in Littlemill. It's a very small hamlet of just a few houses, about 5 miles south of Nairn. William was born in Littlemill on Tuesday, the 26th of April 1887. He was the son of Alexander and Christina Mitchell of Littlemill, and his father was the local blacksmith. The smithy stood where this modern house just behind me in the trees now stands. William, who was a gardener, was the third son of Alexander and Christina, and doesn't appear to have married. He joined the Royal Navy Reserve and served as a trimmer on board His Majesty's trawler Loch Ard. A trimmer brought coal from the bunkers to the stokehold for the stokers and firemen, and this had to be done in an ordered way to keep the vessel level or in trim. As such, it was a skilled but heavy job, and he would have spent most of his time below decks. During World War I, 1,456 trawlers were hired by the Royal Navy, and of these, 266 were lost on active service. The trawlers were used for 3 purposes: minesweeping, anti-submarine patrols, and boom defence duties. On Monday, September the 10th, 1917, while carrying out her duties, the Loch Ard was sunk by a mine from the German submarine UC-14, about 1 mile off Lowestoft. And here's a photograph of the submarine UC-114. The vessel broke in two, and 5 persons of her total crew of 20 were lost. Of that 5 persons, 2 were trimmers, 1 was an engine man, 1 was a deckhand, and 1 was a second hand. I suspect they were all below deck at the time and were either killed by the blast or were trapped by the sudden influx of water. William B. Mitchell was one of the trimmers killed. The UC-14 herself was mined and sunk on 3rd October 1917. And now for the final bit of our story. Here we are in Nairn Cemetery, and in row E1, plot 4, we find the grave and Commonwealth War Grave Commission headstone for William. And these gravestones are of a standard design. Each headstone will be inscribed with the details of the individual, including name, rank, awards, service number, religious emblem and a personal inscription provided by the family. You will also likely see a regimental crest or badge at the top of each headstone, and we have most of these elements here on William's headstone. The vast majority of them are made of Portland stone. They are quite narrow and don't have a pedestal, which makes them instantly recognisable in any cemetery. William's headstone follows this design and is easily found slightly to the left as you enter the cemetery. It's sad to note that there are 34 Commonwealth war graves in Nairn Cemetery alone, and if you're passing, it might be nice if you popped in and said hello to one or two. And now that the last veterans of the First World War have died, and not many of those who fought in the Second World War are left, it's up to future generations to keep the memories fresh and to remember and commemorate those who gave their lives and never returned.